Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is just a rather short astrology update where I would like to speak about the energies and the aspects of the present moment. On one hand, I find today quite relevant because Mercury just reached 15 degrees of Leo, where in a couple of days it will go retrograde from. So, this already marks a very strong theme that is going to be playing out in our lives, not just through July, but all through the summer until eclipse season. But eclipse season plays into this as well, so it is really, really wise to understand what the energy is actually trying to accomplish. Because the cosmos and our because we are also cosmoses in that sense, and that is not literal at all. I'm not saying this symbolically. It's real. The more you think about it, the more proper, real, non-interpretable truth stems from this very widely used analogy where the microcosmos and the macrocosmos. And analogy, however, it's literal. And that's why many things seem unusual to us. Many things, regardless of how, knowledgeable, intelligent, especially those people who have the scorpionic, the investigation mind. For anyone and everyone, there is a slight confusion, not necessarily in the sense that they cannot make sense of what's going on, but we don't see the big picture. We don't see why. We don't see where this is going. And perhaps this Mercury retrograde is a really good opportunity to get those deep, personal, internal answers. Because the external one, well, it just comes. That's not really a big deal. I mean, it's a very, very big deal collectively speaking, but individually, that might help us, or it might, for example, totally disadvantage us. So one of the most intense aspects that is playing out and heavily influencing us in the present moment, well, it is what astrologers call a grand sextile or a minor grand trine. So, we are speaking about Pluto in Aquarius holding the trine with Uranus. So, this is an air trine. Pluto in Aquarius, Uranus in Gemini. And on its own, whenever in history such a trine took place, humanity progressed significantly, progressed in diverse domains. Technology, without a shadow of a doubt, is one of the primary elements here, but also communication, sharing information, a certain ideological crystallization that kind of shaped humanity's worldview, vision, collective thinking forward from those pivotal moments onward, etc., etc. So, on its own, this is quite a good energy, especially if we um, add the fact that Pluto is really still highlighting, still building on, still working on the past great conjunction that took place very, very close to where Pluto is right now, so 0 degrees of Aquarius, 21st of December 2020, when Saturn and Jupiter met in the sky, opening the new paradigm, the next 20 years in Aquarius, but at the same time, the next 200 years in air sign great conjunctions predominantly, thereby closing the past cycle of the 200 years in Earth signs, except 81 or 2, something like that, where one great conjunction actually took place in Libra. However, that single Libra great conjunction, Libra diplomacy, it really, really reformed and reshaped the global political stand between nations, countries, and especially aligned. But we're not going to be speaking about that one. Personally speaking, um, I can only say this out of sheer personal experience of the people I worked with, but whoever's great conjunction I saw in Libra natally, so some 81, 82, something like that. So, of course, this is perfectly valid even after Jupiter leaves the sign, but Saturn stays, because Saturn is the executioner. So it's not just 1 year. That year, when before and after the Great Conjunction, and Saturn still in Libra. So, long story short, those people always, always, always tend to have very intense relationships that change their lives in any way, shape. I'm not speaking good or bad here, we're not polarizing. Or their family of origin, their mom and dad, or whatever, their relationship was so intense or extreme or something that they kind of catapulted the child's karma into a certain direction very, very quickly. Or very many patterns that I see here, where the child from the earliest moments of life became the parent. And I don't need to mention these energies further because you can see that regardless in good or bad way, it still impacted the lives of those people who were born under this aspect. So great conjunctions are big deals. That's the whole point of why I'm mentioning this. And Pluto, one of the most intense, powerful, even the planet associated to power itself, Mars may be inner power, right? Individual power. Power in the sense of energy, how we can quantify it and stuff like that. Strength. Pluto is so multidimensional and so psychological in nature that it incorporates even things that we don't usually see as power. And it is power. Like, let me give you an example: fossil fuel. Any type of fuel, radioactive fuel, anything that has to do with radioactivity, radioactive weapons, radioactive generators, for any purpose, even medicinal purpose, very strongly ruled by Pluto. And when stuff happens in these domains, Pluto usually holds a big aspect somewhere. So you can see how this trine with Uranus is very, very positive. Now, however, there is another side to this. If we just take, and this is a long-term trine, we're going to be seeing more of this in the coming years. So, because this trine will ultimately break up um, when Uranus retrogrades back into the sign of Taurus to finish his job permanently in this cycle at least, where it will only return in 80 for something like that year, so you can imagine. And what I was saying is that the trine on its own, well, it's mass progress, right? It doesn't really care if the individual is the beneficiary of it, if the individual is affected positively by it, because I know what you're saying. Well, you're speaking about the trine. How can it have negative effects? Well, let's just visualize, right? Pluto in Aquarius foresight, that a big progress just booms, and we saw this before in recent years, so no surprise there, and no one's prepared. You can imagine there are third world countries, there are elderly who says, "Oh, I really will not embrace technology, even if it costs my whatever life." Let's not be extreme as this, but so you know what I mean. For them, it's ultimately negative. For humankind, just looking at it purely, in a more utopic way, yeah, it's super good, positive, fast forward, quantum leap, light technology, teleportation, anything, gene editing, artificial intelligence will become more compassionate than a human being, right? Positive advancement, but how sad, right? How very, very sad. However, that's also Pluto. It dishes out the truth. Humankind failed the moral test at many things. It has to show us how we failed. It has to show us that we need to go into the corner for a little bit and have time out and think about the morality of our actions. And Uranus makes this as possibly extreme as it can be. So the mirror, right now, it seems like it's almost malevolent. It's almost like the cosmos being a reality, event, karma is a mirror, right? And right now it seems that that mirror is evil in the sense that it's unforgiving to anyone, good or bad, it doesn't take sides. But you see how we make it be that way. The more ignorant we are, well, neither Uranus, neither Pluto, especially in air signs, love comfort. They don't love comfort, they don't love fixity, they don't like tradition, they don't like this is always how I used to do it. They don't like plans. You might say that, what the hell do you mean? Plan air sign is plan. Yes, but that plan can be like a stoic plan where I am trying this adventure and see how I accomplish it. It loves that. A plan where this is what's gonna happen, I'm gonna pull it through, no, that will definitely fail. So let's add other elements here, which are more important than the trine itself. We have two sextiles between, and these are what matters. Pluto, Saturn, Neptune, and then Uranus, Saturn, Neptune. So Saturn is the solidity element. So Saturn is what makes all this progress that I spoke about, on one hand, applicable, on the other hand, to see the daylight, because how many projects, not just us individually, but our times, they're started, never ever finished. So Saturn makes us see that through. And Saturn conjunct Neptune, this is where we really, really need to think, feel, and analyze deeply, because that's why these are part of the sextile. The air energy will have no morality. The air energy won't have any limits. The air energy won't understand why something that is the most practical solution to a problem must not be chosen because it's immoral. Or Saturn and Neptune help this energy be like that. It is actually the sextiles that make sure that this energy has elements, at least where everyone matters, no one is forgotten, no one is the sacrifice. Everyone has to have a part in the future. The future is for everyone. So besides this, in the very present moment, we can also see um how should I say, a quincunx, so a finger of God. No, sorry. Think I should delete my drawing for the chart to be more clear to me. So what I'm actually wanting to say here is we see a trine, and what I drew in here is Ceres and Mercury. And this is so very important because on one hand, this is a fire trine, and Ceres from Leo feeds the heart. Mercury integrates whatever is fed into the heart. And it's mercurial. Truth, logic, sense, clarity, determination. What do I want? Who am I? Who am I not? What do I genuinely love? And what does just not trigger my heart center ever? What do I genuinely oppose? And very strong answers like this. So, Mercury retrograde is definitely gonna help with all of this because it gives certain very important answers and moments of contemplation. So, this grand sextile is a really good news. We might not necessarily see all too um Saturnian expression of it on the world stage and not even in our individual lives. However, the contemplative energy is definitely there, knocking at the door. And with these retrogrades, because from these planets only Saturn is direct. Sorry, Uranus is direct, Saturn, Neptune retrograde, Pluto retrograde. And why does this matter? That retrograde is internalized energy. It goes inwards. And also, retrogrades stop things. They stop our plans. They stop our initiation. They stop our relationship. They stop our flirt. They stop the job contract. They stop everything, selling, buying. Not necessarily in a rather personal way, right? Because personally, we might be more determined than ever. Personally, we might scream that this is my time. Externally, they might get a bit blocked. And why do I say that? You might say, well, Saturn retrograde, isn't that when everything depends on me? Yeah, but the same is true for other people, organizations, authorities, anything, right? That has rulership, leadership. So if they get stuck, you get stuck. If, I don't know, the financial flow gets stuck, you get stuck. So whatever the theme is for you, whatever you want to break through, build, start, initiate, maybe upgrade. You already have it, you just need a massive upgrade. Or am I staying in this? Maybe you are a person who, um, how should I say that? Well, kickstarted or initiated a big project, a big dream, a big build, or a career or something you want to do already in the past couple of years when many Aries placements and energies, for example, North Node in Aries, really promoted seeding, a seeding moment. However, I said back then, and I still say the same thing, we can't determine the growth of things. Okay, maybe we can sometimes a bit, how much we water it and vary, like if it's a plant. But a good part of growth and evolution does not depend on it's just even a plant has its fate on it, of its own, not just us. So this is why right now these energies might really be blocking us a little bit. So they might ask us to hold our horses And once again, dive deeply in what the greater good is for us personally. Do I stay in this relationship? Because sometimes you see that for you it's a massive greater good. The other part, the person, the partner, you see that I'll just consume him. I'll sacrifice him. I can't live like this. I'll rather break my own comfort, my own happiness. I'll rather not be supported. I'll rather struggle and go my own way, but I give the dignity to my fellow soul. That is the ultimate love. Or vice versa, where I can't support my partner anymore. They're taking everything. I just can't keep up with it. I'll end up in the grave. So things like this. Even if you started something, initiated something a few years back, 2023, 2024, or in the earlier part of 2025, how is that? How are you doing? Whatever you initiated, how is that going along? Is it like on autopilot where you're sucked into it's creating itself, it's running itself, and you're sucked into it? That's the best possible scenario. Or are you having a moment of pause when you really need to think what you will do with the future in the future? Because like if it's like a project, economy, laws change overnight. VAT, all that is so unstable that I can clearly imagine where the physical, the social, the political is stopping things for a, but this can also be one spirituality. Do I dive and immerse deeper into this whatever, or have I reached my limit? Deeper than this does not represent my soul matrix, my heart. So that's why Mercury and Leo, one of the most unknown and ignored things in life, especially where uh, one's relationship with the self is the heart. And you might think, oh my goodness, not definitely not in my case, but I don't mean it like that. Just because you live from the heart, or just because the heart, for example, passion type or creative type work, handiwork, or any spiritual work or heart based, okay. But where's the knowledge in that? Many times, elderly don't know their own hearts. Many times, the brightest intellectual people, us, not just astrologers, master astrologers know everything, right? They don't know their own hearts. The heart is not like it cannot be put under the microscope. You need to converse with your heart. You need to allow its feelings. You need to allow it to talk to you with honesty, without fear. Because sometimes it will say, I'm jealous. I'm unhappy. I want to discriminate. I don't believe in greater good. I don't believe in my good. Of course, in a situation, in whatever. But if that what the heart wants to say is not even considered, you can imagine how wisdom, knowledge, practicality, plans are zero, zero. There's nothing will work that way. Because the person needs to know their own heart. Who are they in their hearts of hearts? Like, let me give you an example. I saw this in many, many compassion based, like a monk, a cleric. But I'm speaking about a real one, not the one right? A real one who kind of lives either in a secluded monastery or a forest, not the moneymaker one. What do they say? Just because I choose compassion, that doesn't mean that my heart is full of compassion. Sometimes and this, he said to me straight to my face, the heart is full of rage, of pain. of grave injustice. Would I not be a hypocrite if I am given the sight and I see what's going on? However, that anger, the frustration, the pain, the unfairness does not make me choose a non-compassionate action. That's my power. That's my service. But in my heart of hearts, I'm very, very angry. So that's what is, and that basically was a massive eye-opener to me. Because the heart can still function. The heart will provide its fire regardless. It's more the intent that matters, and not Mercury, not Mars, actually Uranus, the higher mind. Whatever Uranus thinks, says, sees as truth, when I say Uranus, not the Uranus in the sky, your Uranus, in that component inside your inner cosmos, your being, your higher mind. That's really one's truth, not the nitty-gritty. And many people, especially the most studied and learned people, ones we watch on TV, on YouTube, the wisest of them, they have no clue of what their higher mind's intent is, because it doesn't matter how much you know. This is about living it, feeling it. So very many times everyone, kind of the best people, the highest people, live in the Mercury and they have no idea. They have absolutely no clue that to another they can dish the most sophisticated and truest advice that changes for them. They are less, now I don't want to offend here, mature than, someone you would expect from of the lowest and the lowest parts of society, if you know what I mean. I not in a critical way where they're not nice people, but their Mercury does not wanna allow them to rise above. So you can imagine where, for people like these, this Mercury retrograde is a massive eye opener. Who are you in your heart? Who are you? Because it's not, the answer is not going to be the same as your ego, as your ascendant, not what people made you to be, not what you made yourself to be, not what life conditioned you to be, not even why and how and the specifics your soul came here to do. Those are different things. Heart. And a human being should be ruled by the heart. Even if that in modern society is bad news, danger, by all means, let's stop it. Some people will choose violence, some people will choose, I don't want to. They will reject. You know what I mean? Like, let me get that ultra talented singer. They will sing all right, but they will reject any meeting, any show, any spotlight, any ego stuff. So this is exactly why many people in the showbiz commit suicide. They don't know their heart. They are so taught and trained that they need to be in the spotlight, they need to all that. And no, no, no. For them personally, no. They should have they should have dished out their music, their show the talent, and then cut everything off, even if that meant much, much, much less money, that the no talent gets all the. So you see, knowing your heart. And another thing is that I really need to mention, and I actually am stealing this aspect oh, sorry, not here, from astrologer Pen Gregory, because her video inspired me to have my own take on it. So don't worry, I'm not gonna steal her work in the sense that I'm gonna just tell you what she said, because my interpretation of it is profoundly different. However, congratulations to her, because this is almost like finding a needle in a haystack. This can be so powerful if we know what to do with it. So more specifically, okay, we understand the grand sextile and all that, but there's a much, according to me at least, much more inviting aspect to consider work. So you see Uranus together with Sedna here. Sedna is the sacrifice. Okay, you might say that Saturn is the sacrificial element, the planet that rules, like that's the principle of sacrifice. That's sacrifice in absolutely any way, shape, and form, in any ways you see it. Like work. Work is sacrifice. Even work that rewards you beyond that's still sacrifice. Sedna is the other type of sacrifice. When the sacrifice goes to fate, when the sacrifice is the most extreme, and the sacrifice could not end the story. So what happens when one survives sacrifice? And I don't mean ritual sacrifice, conspiracy, no, one's personal sacrifice. For example, my personal life is the best. My mom never went to university. She was so intelligent, mercurial. She could never go to higher education because on one hand she had to send her sister to school so that her sister can have a good life, and afterwards me, right? Even though I came very late. But that's the sacrifice. That's Sedna. And quincunx with Haumea. Now, Haumea, as I said, is a Hawaiian deity, a Hawaiian sacred feminine energy. Even in the sky, this trans-Neptunian object, this dwarf planet, has an egg shape, literally. Look it up. And when I say look it up, as in NASA and all of the space imagery. And it has an incredibly fast rotational period, which gives her the egg shape. So that's quantum, that's regeneration, that's where there cannot be death as long as there's quantum creation. Death and destruction cannot coexist with Sedna, right? Death and destruction can take place, but not Sedna, Haumea, always rebirths in a different way, sorry. So Haumea's big speciality is improvisation, innovation, but the likes of which not even Pluto can dish out. Why? Because it's organic. It's not controlled. It's, how should I say? It's where the whole cosmos, through chaos, makes something be able to continue even when fate or anything goes against it. And so, needless to say, Haumea is a very powerful symbolism of the mother. Sedna is a very strong symbolism of the other type of mother, the mother who was defeated, sacrificed, even before she could become a mother. Sedna is whose rights, dignity were stripped from her from the very beginning. So she represents the story the energy, the fate of so very many women. One could even say to the present day, but let's just, if possible, reduce it to the past few hundred years. Because one could very well say that, what do you mean few hundred years? Always. No, 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 that's a lie. Just because history wants to depict something a certain way, it's definitely a lie because there is such thing as from the shadow. So we can't really blame patriarchy when the decision, the modus operandi, the grand plan, and this is the emotional food, as in go ahead and do it, it will be fine. I will leave you if you don't do it. I won't respect you as a husband. Yes, we see that the patriarchy was hand in hand with the matriarchy. So this is where both patriarchy and matriarchy can't be put on trial. No, no, no. Oh, no, no, no. And maybe this is the thing that drives feminists and critics of the patriarchy insane in the present moment. Because no, patriarchy and matriarchy are on trial together. And the trial said that it's no one's fault. Guess whose fault it is? The individual. The individual who allowed. So sometimes the whole of humanity got it wrong. We accused, and then the divine comes and is the ultimate judge and says, how can you blame matriarch or any archy when it has nothing to do with that? What the individual chose is what the individual got. And if anything, any archy co-labored, always co-labored. Even the victim co-labored with the aggressor. Because any relationship on a cosmic scale, it takes two to tango. So this is where, let's not judge. We got to the point where we can just judge patriarchy, and matriarchy is not the solution to the bright future. So this is utopic. This is BS. What is the solution? Simple, the individual. Let's abandon archies and let everyone be just themselves and knowing your heart. Know who you are in your heart. Because then any archy is futile, pointless. You don't need any archy to tell you who you are and what you belong to and what you can do and cannot do. So Hemea, along with Sedna, well, they create impossible situations where the only possible solution is the self-ingenuity or self-whatever, and that's the miracle. That's the solution. That is the quantum leap. That is the breakthrough, and nothing else will work. Uranus, the ingenuity. Uranus, the truth of who you are in your higher mind. The truth of who you are in your heart together. And Sedna, what have you done to fight against all in energy, in spirit, in ideology, all the things that make your life not so nice in the present moment, regardless of how nice your life is? Everyone has not so nice elements in their lives that are permanent, right? They're like a permanent thorn in our side or something like that. So everyone has that. And then we get to the other part of the quincunx, Saturn and Neptune. Saturn and Neptune at 0 degree, let's just say 0 degree of Aries, new, unknown, something just entered our earthly realm directly from spirit that is unknowable, that has no shape and form, that is just a seed, a primal seed, and it wants to birth itself. It can't birth itself, let's be honest, because of the state of the human society anywhere right now. It can't. It's an abortion. I'm so sorry to use this horrific term, but it's like an abortion. Pregnancy, okay, but the child, however, there's Sedna. Sorry, there's Homea. Because that's why the quincunx points to Homea, the finger of God. Oh, not this. And what does the finger of God mean in this instance? It really doesn't matter what our reality, which is not divine, our reality is made by us. We live in the world of men. Let's just agree to this. There's nothing I'm so sorry, there's nothing directly, I'm not saying indirect, directly divine in it. Just indirectly. The church, any high priest, Dalai Lama, Pope, whatever, is indirect, is not direct. They can't even channel. Or, I said something so foolish here. They don't have the guts to actually voice the divine. They can, of course they can. They never once did it publicly. So, they're not divine, only indirectly. So, this is Saturn and Neptune, cowardice. We can display the true power of the divine. No. It has to be banned ultimately. And stop everyone from doing that. This is ancient history, right? Well, not really, because it's still going on in our day and age. But in a different way. I'm not speaking about Christianity. I'm speaking about everything. But there's Neptune in the picture. It can be contained. It can't be stopped. So it's up to Homea, the egg, to find a way to birth it. So deeply individually, what does this mean? All of us are Homea. All of us have the quantum egg within our beings, even going as extreme as physically, genetically. It's not just the deep sea octopuses that can edit their genes. It's everyone. Everyone can. Every living being can. But, well, one might say it placebo, other might see it with deeply fanatical belief. Other might see it as pure insanity. It doesn't matter how we see it, but everyone can. Like, let me give you the most stupidest example. In the 90s, especially the early 90s, when breast enhancement, or how you call it, surgeries were starting to get popular, there were alternatives to it. And that was, of course, placebo. Exercises you needed to do, belief exercises that, had mixed reviews. For some people, they couldn't believe it, but it worked. It really, really, really worked. For other people, it's BS, pure BS, nothing happened. Well, you can imagine that both are true at the same time. If one knows how to get to that level of singularity, if one knows how to give everything they are into one desire, of course it happens. Anything happens. Those who just play with it and their mind just does not want to take off the barrier, because there's more than one way. The mind taking off the barrier is one. Their Neptune drowning their whole being is another. Embracing their Uranus fully, that's another. So there are more ways to placebo yourself into anything. It's not just one technique. There's millions. So this is Homea. We are Homea. We need to find that unusual, never ever done, seen, thought, felt type of state before, which gives us the breakthrough, regardless of what it is that we needed in our personal lives. This Homea, the legend of Homea, gives us the solution because Homea, something that is specific to her legend, in some legends she wasn't even a goddess, she was just a sorceress. In some parts of the legends, she just was a woman. But regardless, she defied, I don't even want to, the norm, actually, the norm, even nature. She defied nature. She even said to nature, no, sweetie, no, no, no. Why? Homea is a mother, Sedna is a mother. Well, Saturn and Neptune in themselves are fathers, but any planet has a feminine expression. So what does that mean? The pain of one mother is the pain of all mothers. When an earthly mother is in that singularized state of pain, the earth mother feels it, and then the celestial mothers, all of them feel it. So if you ask yourself, why are things going so horribly in mainstream society right now, and why is humankind attacked from all sides? Internally, where random individuals, it could be you and me, just have temporary insanity, they lose their mind and do stuff. Or the leaders or anyone in administration is definitely insane in the sense that they're not rooted in common sense and physical reality and anything really, just some kind of morbid fantasy. But this goes for anything really. So that's when the mothers have to step up. The earthly mothers are not able to do all that much because they're shackled, right? But then the celestial mothers have to do what they need to do. And what is the primary weapon of the mother? The tear, the water that floods everything, right? So we see this play out on the world stage. But it is also that water, which those tears that create things, as I said, that not even Mother Nature could have ever dreamed of. This quincunx is where everything, sorry, earthly and even divine, the archons, the spheres, the planets, the sephira, whatever name you would call them, everyone failed, even them. So it's up to the raw, undefined creational energy to empower the mothers. And everything fears that. Let me give you humankind had no, in this modern day and age and form never experienced a moment of this. Never ever, like, I'm literally saying we humankind never experienced anything like this unless we go to a little bit further back, off chart recorded history. Atlantis, Lemuria, Atlantis's downfall was exactly this in spirit and in emotion, when the hearts of Atlanteans were exactly like our hearts right now, everyone included, you, me, everyone. So that's when things that defy even the very rules of the cosmos are invited into the world directly by the divine source. Because something needs to. How do you help madness? Well, by creating a madness that makes your own seem like child's play. So don't fear. I know everyone is under a lot of inner turmoil right now. What am I gonna do? My life, my dreams, my emotion, my relationship, my illness, is it gonna kill me? Is it gonna what's gonna my house, my everyone is under my child. What's gonna happen to my child? Are they gonna get better or are they gonna end up in jail? Everyone is everyone has a lot of problems right now, but it exactly when the situation seems totally hopeless, no rational solution on sight, even spirit is quiet, so no hope, no faith, no nothing. That is when this quincunx can kick. That's the best possible moment. Yes, that breaks us many times. That's the state that ends the story of many people. I mean, I say I don't mean death or suicide. I mean verse, as in where they totally abandon their soul path and they end up, just gamers will understand what I'm gonna be saying now. NPCs, just the same, archived. This is another term that I see arising on the archived. Yeah, archived. Where what can the divine do with you unless archive you? So that means you get up in a life that it's so comfortable that nothing outside of that will ever happen. Almost like when bacteria, microbe, or whatever is in their bubble, their cocoon, or whatever. They're fine, they're happy, but that's the worst part of this, and even though that is good in itself. Worse, but it's still so good. Because that's the universe's way of saying you're an independent cosmos of your own. Do as you wish, sweetie. Especially if that person, if that soul, doesn't have a lot to pay from this incarnation or others. But the best case scenario is where not that they break free from their soul path, like the previous example, their whole soul path is upgraded. And that I'm saying these things, but don't understand that something pleasant, because ultimately this won't be pleasant. But where it will lead is beyond pleasant, because it's the adventure of life, is real life for that soul, where the life is lived through the soul and the soul path. Every effort, every pain, every wound, every heartache is literally perceived the same as a victory because polarization is not there anymore. So this is Timaeus power within all of us, especially females. This is Sedna's power. And ultimately, we can increase this list with other power players. Aries, Ceres, Pallas Athena, Vesta, Juno, all of the Hecate, all of the other goddesses, goddess energy, regardless if we're speaking about a mainstream big planet like Venus, an asteroid like Vesta, a planetoid like Ceres, a trans-Neptunian object planetoid like Sedna, the furthest presently from the sun because it's outside the heliosphere, and they discovered something even more further than Sedna, but we don't have any info that we could use astrologically in a relevant and in a non-speculative, even though everything is speculative, but you know what I mean. So we're waiting for this new candidate to show their properties. Who are they? What are they? And what do they bring to the table? And I don't necessarily mean technically astrologically, but more like their energy, their consciousness. Because all of these planets are new archetypes that are arising in our, how many of us are not Sedna, right? But the Sedna's archetype, before her discovery, so something like 2003, 4, one, maybe even. Uh, you could not come out as a Sedna because chances are you, how should I say, not that you raised awareness or you encouraged someone, you just made the situation 10 million times worse, not just for yourself, but for the celestial Sedna herself. When a planet, when an archetype, when an energy needs to stay still in the shadow, in the unconscious, it has a very good reason for it, but it's no longer there. So, just as Sedna showed herself, all of us, living, breathing Sednas, came out from the deeps to tell the story of survival, of transformation, of the magic of pain, of the miracle of loss, of how having to abandon the ego really started real life. That's the moment when we were actually born. Anything that we, school, childhood, jobs, all of that was the Maya, but the type of Maya which isn't even dignified. Only after falling, only after our wounds became us in an unhealable way, did we become Sednas and could we come to the surface to deliver a message. So thank you everyone, and I hope this helped. Until next time, bye for now.